Hey, good morning, everybody. And I'm Steve Farrell. I'm a co-founder and executive director of Humanities Team. I'm coming to you live from our studio in Boulder, Colorado. And look who I've got with me today, our special guest, Timothy Noah, who, as you know, is a teacher on Perspective, this oneness documentary that many of you got to see during the Global Oneness Summit and much more. He actually has a weekly program on Wednesdays today that's at 4 p.m. Pacific on the 12 steps. And during the hour, we'll make sure to get to that as well. So, Timothy, hey, thank you for joining me.
Hey, Steve, great to be here with you.
All right. And Timothy and I are going to talk about our theme here today is Nassim Haramein's contribution to a brand new program that Humanities Team, Greg Braden have created together. Nassim Haramein is part of it. Bruce Lipton is part of it. It's amazing. We're going to talk about Nassim Haramein's contributions to this new program and to the Global Oneness Summit, his Unified Science Award, really Nassim Haramein's contributions to the planet. I want to first, though, just shout out to all of our friends that are watching here. Thank you for joining us during this live program. We come to you every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 Eastern. So our friends on Humanity Stream Plus, though, and there's a green room here with us, and they're in the green room. They can actually come on camera with questions for Timothy if they have them during the hour. Also, our friends in Humanities Team all over the world. Thank you all for joining us. The Sign Network, John Raymer, big shout out to you. And guess what? John and his wife Summer, guess where they are today? They're driving through Colorado. Isn't that cool? So I'm hoping to see them before they leave Colorado. They're down in the south part of the state, heading north here a little later up toward Rocky Mountain Park. And so, we love the Sign Network, sign.network. Check them out. They're doing just great work all over the planet. Okay, so because this is a live program, we do get comments and questions right here live in the studio. So I've got a monitor right here. And as Timothy and I are talking, if you've got something you want to throw out, or if you're in the green room, want to come on camera, raise your hand. And then the earlier the better. We'll get to as many questions and comments as we can during the hour. So again, I want to just say, really great to have Timothy with us. I referenced a few things there. He's a graduate of Duke, where he was a major in physics, so he helps us to really follow all of this leading edge science work. Also a graduate of the University of Nevada, where he got his master's degree in nonprofit administration. He might continue to climb this ladder in academia. Who knows? We'll see. So, Timothy, thanks again for being here with me.
Thank you, Steve. Always a joy. And we have such a beautiful crew here in the green room, our stream members here. So hello to all our stream members with us today.
Fantastic. Yeah, stream members, thanks for being here today. Boy, we've got some new live programs coming to you. We'll try and make sure we get to those stream on this live program side, such as this one. We're adding new programs all the time. Timothy's program's only about a month old. That's at 4 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, and there's lots more coming. So we'll be sure to get to those before the hour is out. Timothy, so we're going to talk about Nassim Haramein, his enormous contributions to the planet. You were with him there down at the lab here last year. We created this masterclass called Forbidden Science. It was with Greg Braden and Nassim Haramein. It was stunning, really, in the research that we brought through. Can you talk a little bit about just being down there in the lab and what that was like?
Absolutely. So actually, Jim Gray, who is behind the camera here today and every Wednesday with the show, Jim and I were at Nassim's lab last year, as Steve said, to film Forbidden Science. We first filmed Greg in Arizona, and then we went to Nassim's lab, which was in Southern California at the time. And now I believe he's moving over to Europe somewhere. But when we went into his lab, he's in the middle of this big, vast business complex. And we go into his lab, and, it's actually pretty substantial. I was not expecting such a large, it's multi-floor, many rooms, many people working with him on his research from all different departments. And the one if I trust we will be showing I believe we're showing a module from Forbidden Science here today, and you'll see in that particular module, that was what I'd say the most lab-like room in his lab. You know, he has office spaces and different kind of administrative pieces. But then there's a lab. There's a proper lab where there's a big lab bench. There's all sorts of gadgets in there and electronics and wires coming from here over there and different microscopes and instruments to measure. And me being in there, as Steve said, I studied physics as an undergraduate, and being in there, I just thought to myself, I would have loved to have been here as a high school student and to mess around with all this equipment, because that's where all the creation comes from. That's where all the fruition and you know, playing around with magnets, and he's got all sorts of instruments that they're designed to be on the table and fiddled around with. And I think we all have this curiosity with science of just seeing what happens when I put this magnet over here and what impact does it have on this device? Or if I put this wire this way, what happens? And clearly Nassim's onto something, because he has quite the team, and we're waiting very anxiously for the results for his published paper to come soon. But his lab is extraordinary, Steve, and it just has at least this one piece of it. It just invites any sort of curious mind into playing around into new discovery.
Yeah, boy, that was amazing. I was down there too with Timothy and Jim at the lab there in Southern California. Amazing, the team of that study that are experts in mathematics and then across the various disciplines of science that he'd assembled there. Extraordinary. Nassim Haramein is a brilliant theoretical physicist in the world. He was the winner of our first ever Unified Science Award earlier this year in September. Some of you may have been there during the ceremony. We're going to share a brief clip from this as well. He's been on the road less traveled. He is not an academic. Usually, you know, these people that are brilliant, that change the whole world, come down an academic track. He did not, which is maybe why he stayed open to these discoveries that he is just on the verge of announcing. He's actually, if you go to the Resonance Science Foundation, his organization, they've been releasing a lot of this research along the way, so it's not going to be too eye-opening when his final research paper comes out. We understand it's early this coming year, but it's this work that Albert Einstein, if you've read the biography on Albert Einstein, you know, the last 15, 20 years of his life, he was working on this whole unified field theory that that brings in these equations that show that everything in the cosmos, going back to its origin at the Big Bang or the Big Breath, as Jude Currivan likes to call it, that everything is one. You know, that he says, as he's summarizing his research with all of these equations that are true, by the way, to 13 digits, which is like, whoa, 0.0000. If you remember back to your science classes, it's like, what? Where the entire universe, everything from quantum scale to cosmological objects, everything fits into one thing, proven to 13 digits. I mean, just stunning. And Einstein, in those last years of his life, couldn't get there. I mean, it's just too big he didn't have all of the modern research devices and things that are here today. Nassim's actually really very humble about it and says, well, you know, if Albert Einstein had access to the science and the gear that I do, he would have, you know, brought this out years ago, but he didn't, and had to await me to come along. So, but it says that we're sovereign to the universe or to one thing. Nassim Haramein, as we talk about oneness, he has been, along with others, providing the foundation that says this isn't some new age thing, or it's not even just some mystical thing that goes back to sacred text, you know, in BC times. Yes, it's true that sacred text, almost all of them, reference oneness and that we're all one. But science is now putting a cement foundation underneath of it, and he's sharing this is how and why. when we look through a microscope at a quantum scale at things, we can see that everything actually is a part of one thing. So using science speak, he says that we're resident to the universe. We're all part of the universe, which is exactly the same thing that Neil Donald Walsh would share, a co-founder of Humanities Team, from who of course wrote Conversations with God, where he says we are all one. If we're sovereign to the universe, we're all one. So we're saying exactly the same thing. We're just using science terms and spiritual terms here. So, well, let's just jump in. There's so many things that Timothy and I want to cover. One thing, let me just say, so we don't lose sight of it. Today's a big day for us, because there's not only this program and Timothy's program at 4 p.m. Pacific, but then at 5 p.m. Pacific this evening is the very first unveiling of this free program that we've created with Greg Braden that launches everything, this whole new Masterclass that we'll talk a little bit about, that Nassim is contributing to, Bruce Lipton is contributing to. It's the very first unveiling of the free program. The free program is called From Surviving to Thriving. And it starts at 5 p.m. Pacific this evening. We're going to broadcast it for the very first time. It's an hour broadcast, and then Greg will be with us live tonight, because we're going to then get into questions that you have, so you can bring your comments and questions to the program. Greg called in yesterday to say we'll even stay a little later. It's a 90-minute program, an hour broadcast, and then 30 minutes with question and answer. But he said, he's such a great guy. He always does this, actually. He says, hey, I'll stay a little later, if there are more questions than we can get to in 30 minutes. So join us tonight for the very first unveiling of From Surviving to Thriving. You can see the link on the window for the sign up, so that we send you the video link to come in and participate. So, boy, so many things to cover here, Timothy. Maybe we just go to this first clip, the Science of Evolution panel here. This is from the Global Oneness Summit. Timothy was a host of the Global Oneness Summit. I was a host. So this is one of the panels, and in this clip, you're going to see us talk about how close Einstein was to forming a unified theory. So you're actually going to hear now Nassim in his own words cover some of the things that I was trying to put words to a minute ago. Let's look at this, and then Timothy and I are going to come back and talk about it.
In reading like the biography of Albert Einstein and then Leonardo da Vinci, both Einstein, this underlying unity, just to his grave, he was trying to pull those equations together, couldn't quite get there. And, you and your team are bringing it there.
Einstein was just missing a few little pieces in order to do it. And one of them actually was believing in the result of his own equations, which had to do with singularity and black holes, which at the time had not been discovered, meaning like his own theory predicted the existence of black holes and singularity, but it hadn't been observed at the time. It was unlikely that it existed. In general, it was thought to be kind of like a weird part of the equation, a part that was not real. Just as the linearization of Maxwell's equations produce potential vectors that were thought to not be real, just conceptual. And then now we're discovering, oh no, those are real effects, scalar components to the electromagnetic field. And when you put these things together, all of a sudden you get a completely different view. And that complete different view doesn't just mean that like we understand the cosmos better. It means we understand us better, at a very profound level, like because we're made of the particles and these singularities. And so it's really important to understand them.
Okay, fascinating. Yeah, fascinating, where he's sharing things like black holes and these other phenomena were only speculation. They were part of the vision but they didn't have the instruments to really see it with James Webb, and of course even before James Webb, boy, we could see these things. So now we've got much more solid foundation here, as he shares, huh? But he's still being very modest. Is there anything like this that you're familiar with in science, Timothy, in today's world, what he's bringing forward with his unified field theory?
Boy, I'm sure there are some theories that tie together. The one with which I know at least somewhat, and I'm not a PhD physicist by any means, but we're all probably familiar with string theory. Now, string theory does describe many of our physical phenomena, but the limitation with it is that it doesn't make any predictions. So it describes everything, but the main question, as I understand it, is, well, maybe the physicists are just developing something around what we already know to be true. And so because there's no way to test string theory, it's kind of tapering off in interest because it doesn't seem to be providing anything new to the scientific community. Now, contrast this with Nassim's work, which actually we gave him the Unified Science Award from Humanities Team because of the one discovery or the one research implication that he has already put forth. And this is that in his theory, and this was published some years ago, he published a paper saying that in his equations, in his model or his team's model of the universe, that everything seems to line up with measurements. It predicts all numbers of things that we see. Everything lines up, except for this one thing. And the one thing was the size of the proton. And he shares much more about this in Forbidden Science. If for any of our stream members here or anybody interested, check out Forbidden Science because Nassim tells this whole story. But his equations were lining up with everything that could be seen except for the size of the proton. And his calculation was showing that the proton should be 4% smaller than it was being measured at the time. And 4% may seem small, like a small margin of error, but for quantum mechanics, it's huge. It's massive. You might as well be on the other side of the world with a 4% error. But because everything, and this is just Nassim's story that I'm retelling here, but because everything else was lining up, he decided to publish that paper with that speculation, just in the faith or trust that there might be something to it. And unbeknownst to him, at the time, there was a team of scientists that were measuring the proton, which is just a piece of the nucleus of an atom. They were measuring the size of the proton using a different method than traditionally used. And this different method was yielding a different size of the proton. And lo and behold, the size that they were measuring was 4% smaller than the accepted value at the time. And so Nassim published this paper, and shortly thereafter, in the grand scheme of things, this team of scientists revealed that they measured the proton to be 4% smaller. So this is the kind of speculation or prediction that makes scientific theory hold in the long term. And just to give another example, a historical example, when Einstein published his theory of general relativity, which is his theory of gravity on a larger scale, Newton gave us gravity for, our scale, and it works fine enough. But once you start to get into the solar system scale, some things start to break down. Einstein gave us a much richer picture of gravity that would account for some of the aberrations in our measurement for our solar system. Namely, it accounted for some of the orbits of the planets that seemed to be off. One of the predictions of, and again, this is a prediction that Einstein's theory made, is that planets and large bodies deflect light. Nothing in Newton's theory said that light was at all way influenced by gravity, but Einstein's theory said that light was influenced by gravity. And this was something that we could test. This is something that could be validated. It's a prediction that doesn't conform with anything that we've seen yet, and so we could test it. And so there's a well-known experiment after Einstein published this theory of general relativity, where there was a lunar eclipse or a solar eclipse. There was an eclipse, which allowed us to test this, because we can measure, it must have been a solar eclipse. We can measure, we can look at a star, and because the sun is so massive, the star would look to be further to the right than what it actually was. And the legend has it, what I like to share, and this may be true, is that all the scientists were up that evening looking at this eclipse in order to see if Einstein's theory was true. And Einstein, he was asleep because he trusted in his theory, and he said, the theory is right. They're going to measure it to be where it ought to be. And sure enough, they did. And this is the thing that put Einstein's theory right on the map, because they said it predicted this that nobody thought was true. So we must trust all of its further implications. So too, and we haven't seen much from Nassim, so we can only say so much. But Nassim has made this sort of testable prediction that may put it right into the scientific spotlight.
Yeah, boy, fantastic. Those are powerful stories. Thanks for taking us through that, Timothy. And so boy, people are waiting with bated breath for this research paper, Unified Field Theory, that is coming out early next year. We had the good fortune to be with Nassim in September when we were putting the Global Oneness Summit together, and he was just absolutely bouncing off the ceiling, because the last equation that he and his team were looking for before releasing this research paper was on alpha, which is part of this science, and they finally solved the alpha equation. So he was, in fact, he missed our when we all showed up with Greg and our team. He didn't make it because he was out celebrating, so we had to reschedule. And we understood why he was so excited when he took us through how they'd solved this equation. So boy, do stay tuned. Now, let me just, before we get to the next, we have 3 video clips here, and we're talking about various programs. But before we get to the next video clip, let me just share why all this matters. Because, it's not that Timothy and I are just science geeks, wanting to talk science. It's because of what it comes back to. It's because of the intrinsic value that this is coming back to. And Nassim likes to talk about this just the way Neil Donald Walsh would from the spiritual side. And what Nassim shares is, he says, my God, he says, what this research is demonstrating is you, each person here, that you are an integral part of this expanding, this breathing universe, that the universe can't be without you. Do you walk straight, like of posture, as you walk around with the awareness, with the understanding, with the expression of, the universe kind of across you're pasted across your head, that says, I'm a part of this thing, this breathing, living, breathing universe. So we're not just, which by the way, for those of you on a science track, as my friends in science like to tell me that they try and beat this kind of thing out of them as they're on the science track. No, this doesn't have any meaning. This is all random. You don't understand, it's a random thing. Your dad's sperm and then your mom's egg, and it ran, this has been the story, right? This has been the narrative. And it's unfortunate we grow up this way of now, it's a random, lucky you did win the lotto that you're in this body, but there's nothing to it. It's going to dust. Well, guess what? It couldn't be, that is completely untrue. So we're just taking that apart here and saying it is not a random thing at all. You're a part of this eternal, unlimited universe that's living and breathing. So it's a completely different story that is so unbelievably empowering. Imagine young people growing up. God, I wish I could have grown up with this awareness at 3 years old, 5 years old, 8 years old, instead of learning this here at a much later age. So, Timothy, anything you want to say before we go to this next clip here on this?
No, I think you're saying it nicely, Steve. And I guess how I think of it with what Nassim is sharing is that truly that, especially how he shares how he came to the theory without even necessarily invoking the equations. It's this profound understanding, like you're saying, of oneness, that in some somehow that all of the universe is within you, that every part of you contains the entirety of the universe, that of course we can look up to the night sky, but even that is within yourself. That we don't have to go anywhere, we don't have to do anything, that we truly have it all from us, even from a scientific perspective within ourselves, that we're a blueprint for the cosmos. And this is exactly, I think, what you're getting at, Steve. This sort of empowered life that we can walk upright through the world.
Yeah, boy, thank you for bringing that in, and that is so important. That's part of this research. And Greg and Nassim are sharing that. So all of the field, or the universe, where these are interchangeable terms, with all of what is there, the wisdom, the power, the omnipresence, omniscience, etc., that actually is resident in every part of the whole. This is what holistic. This is what the term holistic means. That the field is in the cell. Now, I'm actually reading something right now from HeartMath and Greg Braden that's bringing this home in terms of what this means. Where there was this HeartMath study, I think it was 2007, of the mother and the baby, and they were looking at heart-brain coherence and just seeing, oh my God, they brought it. There was this one image that it came into, where they came into perfect coherence. And so then they moved away to study coherence in people and the planet and so on. And you may know, HeartMath then took it into a whole world coherence thing. And so this is where we, with this whole field that's resident in non-local wisdom, non-local information, we can become coherent with anything. Like right now, we can become coherent with the viewers, Timothy and I, with Humanity's team, with our mission, make conscious living pervasive worldwide by 2040. We can actually become coherent together. This field means that we can become coherent with anything and anybody in any subset, or with the whole. It's unbelievable. So, okay, now let's go to the next video here. This is from Forbidden Science. So this is that masterclass. Timothy and Jim were down there. Myself, we were down there at Nassim's lab creating it. So this is from the mentoring session number 2 with Nassim Haramein. We're going to come back and talk about that here just right after we watch it. Here we go.
The assumption that dreams are not real is a very tentative assumption, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning, from the dream world, looking at us, they could say the same thing, right? So you see, many gurus throughout history have talked about how it's all an illusion. I like to think of it as it's all real, the whole thing. And I think when they were talking about how it's all an illusion, what they really meant is that thinking that reality is not real is an illusion, right? Meaning that reality has a reality behind it. That if you only look at the atoms, you're gonna miss.
Yeah.
Right. And so what they meant is that thing you're seeing is making you miss the reality below it, but not that it's an illusion, that it's not part of the universe. It totally is. The whole thing is real. Right. What you call your imagination, what you call your dreams, the whole thing is real. What we call spirituality, all this, it's all real, right? Including the matter, because the matter is made out of all the same thing. It's all one thing.
Okay, boy, I love that. Yeah, I love that instead of thinking of it as everything's an illusion, everything's real. There's no separation. There's just one thing. Really an incredibly powerful point there, huh, Timothy?
Yes, and what I appreciated too about what he's sharing is he alluded to, when you're in a dream, you could say that this world is illusory too. And this is exactly what I would expect from a physicist, is because in physics, and what Einstein exuded so well, what Newton gave us and all the great physicists provided us with, is this understanding of reference frame. And a reference frame is essentially anybody that is observing something. And so Newton, when somebody is sitting on a train, looking out upon the world, usually we say that the person in the train is moving, but when you're the person in the train, really the world is moving around you. And so this is the sort of training as a physicist that we embark upon, where no matter what your reference frame is, you're at rest in a sense. You're the center of your reference frame, and everything else is going on. So it's interesting to take this perspective of reference frame into dream worlds and maybe other realms, because I agree. I think if we're experiencing this thing as a dream or whatever it might be, then it's just as real as we experience this collective life here together.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We go down into just one point like this, and this research of Nassim's, also of Greg's. It's a treasure chest. I mean, my God, we were bringing in heart-brain coherence, world coherence, the field in you, the equations that talk about the science of everything from quantum scale of atom, to cosmological object. I mean, there's so many different dimensions to this that all come in, so the reason it's so important to us in Humanities team, and that we're spending a quality time with you reviewing these things, is it really, when we talk about ultimate reality, which is you open your eyes in the morning, we look out on the world, our worldview, what we see, what we understand internally as we go to prayer, as we go to meditation, as we walk out in nature, as we have a quiet moment, as we listen to music. I mean, it's just a completely different world. It's some of the religious traditions talk about being reborn. In a sense, we're reborn, when we become conscious, which is why this whole conscious journey thing is so important, where, maybe we're accepting the gift of why we embodied in the first place, huh, Timothy? I know your mother, who's also a esteemed faculty with Humanities team, Karen Noe, who did the Life After Death program with Wayne Dyer's daughters, Serena Dyer and Sage Dyer. She brings in these very same points with her We Consciousness and in her Life After Death program, right?
Absolutely, and it's certainly been a privilege, an honor to grow up with this teaching from my mother, from my very mother. So I'm just so grateful to have had this experience. And yes, absolutely, Steve, when all it is a shift in perspective of, well, I'm just one of so many people, or I'm just a small piece in this vast universe, into this perspective that Nassim would use the language of, well, the whole universe is somehow within myself. I'm using that language, but it's the scientific language that well, maybe this world is my paradise. Maybe everything that I see is part of a perfection in some way. And so to see it from this point, because the truth is, as my mother would share, or really anybody who has died, we have some guests on our program sometimes who have died and come back and share what it's like. And there's a common thread through all these experiences too. And the fact of the matter is that we don't need to go through that experience in order to live the truth right now. We have all the data points. We hear what people's experiences are when they transition out of the body. So let's bring this wisdom into right here and now. And of course, Nassim does such a beautiful job of translating this in a way that uses equations and science and mathematics.
Yes, he does. And last week, of course, we had Bruce Lipton on, who's also a part of this new program that Greg Braden's doing with Nassim Haramein. And we're now coming into some of the same important topics. You'll recall last week with Bruce Lipton, he says, this heaven on earth, he says, he walks around, he's got a big smile on his face always, where he's reprogrammed himself into this whole new worldview where he sees this oneness thing, this unity consciousness thing. He sees this whole gift of life that's everlasting. There's no death. What is there to fear? There's no such thing as death. A TV set will fall over, and you're going to need to come back into another TV set. But the broadcast, which is consciousness, it never dies, and it's unlimited. And that's the beauty of this, is this whole new, I grew up with the whole American dream thing of, boy, start the business and grow it, and you become wealthy in all these ways. And then if you know my history, I actually did live that out in Silicon Valley. But you also know I share that's an illusion, because, boy, you get to the $75 million company and then you're headed for 150 million. Get to 150, you're headed to 300. There's no there. It's just a mirage. What we're talking about here, where we really come into the awareness, the understanding of who we really are, and then we harness these new beliefs, which are ultimate reality. Oh boy, our life is just so incredibly beautiful and prosperous. And then as well, when we do that together, then this whole, where we see our connection, and we see then connection always creates responsibility. Responsibility always creates positive action. So where we do these things together, voila, we all go to our station life. We serve these different functions: people, planet, life on planet, animal life, plant life, etc. And we create this whole heaven on earth thing. So, which of course, as you know, Humanities Team is a 501c3 nonprofit. This is what we're about. We're not on the money train of try and make a bunch of money. We're on the support people that are on the conscious journey. Help the whole planet become conscious. That's our journey here, which is very exciting for us. So, okay, now let me mention these two video clips that we've seen are on Humanity Stream Plus. As we mentioned, there some of them, there's a group right now in the green room. So Humanity Stream Plus has got all of these video trainings. So we've put like 38 new video trainings on this streaming platform. It's a revolutionary streaming platform just in this year alone to now. So, and we'll put more on before end of year. 38 new programs just this year. So we're putting lots of high quality content there. And the reason it's called Humanity Stream Plus is because we do all of these live programs and create community. We do these viewing parties. So we'll be watching Greg's new program and viewing parties. We do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Have over 100 people often do the viewing parties together. We do this where stream members can come into the green room. We do mentoring where you come into all of the new launches. We do mentoring that's live, and stream members are invited into that. And then these new programs that are coming, let me just mention real quick now, Timothy, Dr. Jonathan Ellerby has got a real exciting program he's launching. Yin Rising, we're not 100% sure the name of his program, but he's an amazing person. And then there's this beautiful diversity program that he's helping to put together that's coming soon. There's Ron, who's a vegan chef who's won the Olympics of cooking, both in gold medal, silver medal, and bronze medal. Has got is doing broadcasts, and then he's going to come on doing a live Q&A. And then Kevin Schoeninger and his partner Stephen are bringing in this whole embodied practice that has a Qigong basis that's launching December 1st. Those are just a few of the new programs that are coming. The reason for that is because this whole immersion thing, this whole experiential thing, which Timothy and I are doing our very best to put into words, which is what is conscious living. But these programs that are live, actually, we experience it together. That's what it's about, is just feeling it, expressing it, and talking about our different perspectives on it. Do you want to add to this? Timothy's got his own 12 Steps program that's beautiful. Just your own program and the importance of these live programs, Timothy.
Yes, just to make it abundantly clear to everybody here, we are actively, Humanities Team is actively working to bring many more live programs for our stream members and for our larger community. As Steve has shared and often shares of just the vastness of our library at Humanity Stream. When you go onto Humanity Stream, there's just vast, huge swaths of recorded content and video trainings that you can go through, and you'd be watching for the rest of this year if you try to watch through everything that was there. And so to supplement this and to complement this, to amplify this, we're now actively working to bring more live programs, meaning this is a live program and this is one, but we would like to offer many through the week so that people can come together and not so much, there will be programs where we can, be a part and join in discussion. And then maybe there are some programs where the audience, the participants, have an active role in its unfoldment. There could be kind of counseling or coaching type programs. There could be therapy type programs. So all of these are part of the Humanities Stream Plus membership, because we're just continuing to pack as much value as we can into this membership. And right now we see that community, real small group community and real long-term healthy relationships, that's where we're focusing our attention. We have all sorts of recorded content, and we'll continue to add to our recorded content, but just stay tuned with us as we add to our event schedule and add more and more live programs, because I'm sure you'll see, if not one or two, maybe more programs that you'll want to join and maybe attend regularly. And this is where we find our community to make the most lasting relationships, that when a group of people comes to a regular program or a regular class or a regular group therapy, whatever it might be, these are where the real relationships are formed. This is akin to today's, if people here don't go to church, then we're just offering a bunch of more opportunities to, quote, go to church, where we have a community that supports each other, a safe place, a sacred place where everybody in this room just wants to encourage you to be the best version of yourself. So yes, this afternoon we have at 4:00 Pacific, I run along with everyone who joins. It's called the Next 12 Steps, and we're using the 12-step process in order to collectively heal from some of our perhaps dysfunctional behaviors as humanity. And we come together, it's a group, it's a roundtable discussion. And so we each kind of feel into one of the steps. Sometimes we have a guest. This week we'll feel into one of the steps and come together as to how we can apply this step into a collective rather than an individual application of each of the steps. We're applying it to the collective for humanity as a whole. We're identifying with humanity in this class. So, but again, this is one of many that are to come, Steve. So thanks for the opportunity for allowing us to bring forth these programs with our community.
Yeah, no, it's exciting, and for most of us, we've let go of cable television long ago because of there's not a lot of good news out there, and ultimate reality, as we're discussing, it isn't so apparent. So we're bringing all of that into this live programming, and as Timothy shared, boy, watch this just take off. We have so many new programs on the live side in pipeline, because we find it's fun to be in community like this, where we're just talking live and bringing in immersion experiences, experiential experiences, discussion groups, viewing parties, poetry, cooking, gardening. It's endless, the things that we can do. And so all of that is coming to Humanity Stream Plus. Now, so again, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. It's actually really economical, right? It's $399 a year for Stream Plus, and we just brought in a second. Now there's a monthly payment option too, where you still are agreeing to make a payment stream for a year, but now there's a monthly payment option. So you could go look at that if you think you might like that better. And then whether you buy the annual, all a lump sum up front, or the monthly, there's the one-for-one program, because we're a nonprofit, where when you acquire your own subscription, you gift a free subscription to somebody around the world, underserved, underprivileged, that couldn't afford it. As you know, a lot of people don't have any budget for this kind of thing, and they're on the conscious journey. So we give one away free to somebody in the world for every one that's purchased. So that's kind of neat too. We like to celebrate that in Humanities team. Okay, so let's go to, we've got another clip here. By the way, there's, hey, we've got great interaction here with viewers, so thank you. Wow. So somebody in the green room now, Janine just said, so grateful for Tim and his mom, Karen. All right, so shout out to you and your mom. All right, thank you, Janine. Thanks for bringing that in. And then we've got a bunch of questions here too. Kevin, Jennifer, Jacqueline, Eva. So we're going to get to your questions here in just a minute. Let's go ahead and watch this third video here real quick of Nassim. And this is where he's talking. This is from this brand new program that Timothy and I started talking about at the beginning of this show, where Nassim is talking about the prevalent concern about energy production and the need to collectively understand what energy really is, leading to innovations in green energy. Okay, so that's what he's bringing into this new masterclass with Gregg Braden. So let's go take a look at a clip where Nassim is talking about this.
I know that like the last few years in our world have been, a little bit topsy-turvy and difficult. And we are going through some very challenging moments in our society. And one of the major focus of the issues that are occurring in our society have to do with energy and energy production and how we, utilize resources, how we produce energy, and how we interact with the world and in a way that's sustainable. And I really want to stress that those issues are not going to go away until we understand what we mean by energy, like really profoundly. Because as soon as we do, then it becomes a trivial issue, because the universe is full of that stuff we call energy. It is intensely energetic, and you're evidence of it. And so is everything around you, and like literally everything.
Okay, and that actually was, as you can see in the heading, that was a cutout from this when we gave him the Unified Science Award, first ever in September. But he's talking about energy, the new energy, which is what he brings into this new program called a 5-year guide that's being announced tonight with Gregg Braden, very first showing of this free program called From Surviving to Thriving. Boy, but that's pretty exciting, this whole notion of energy, the way Nassim talks about it, huh, Timothy?
Yes, I mean, scientists, this is well established, the energy of just in the vacuum, interesting, the vacuum, what we call the vacuum of space is actually not at all vacuum. It's filled with particles and energy that's coming into and out of existence somehow. And so it's been a long time, a huge question of is it possible to tap into this energy and use it? And I surmise that Nassim is trying this, or maybe has found a way to do just this.
Yeah, in fact, you saw in his lab, he actually had a device that brings in this new energy, didn't he? I think I remember him showing you and me and Gregg Braden the device right there in his headquarters there in Southern California. It was stunning.
It was quite the device, Steve. It was in a shipping container in a huge warehouse that was specially insulated from radiation. And admittedly, I don't know what the heck that huge thing did, but it was quite the machine. And there were so many wires and crystals and all sorts of things going in there. And yeah, I'll always remember that one too.
Yeah, amazing. So, so be sure, again, tonight, 5 p.m. Pacific, which is 6 Mountain, that's 8 Eastern. We do this very first broadcast viewing with Greg Braden live, where from surviving to thriving, and it opens this whole thing up of just how we journey into the future in these uncertain times. So, and energy is just one of many, many things that we get to. It gets into digital currency, agriculture, many, many things. So I don't want to spoil, tonight's announcement. So I'll just say that about it. But do join us tonight for that live program. That's going to be really exciting. Okay, so now we've got comments that have come in here. So one is from Kevin. He says, how do you or Nassim know that this information is true and correct? Timothy, how might you answer that?
It's tough to say. I'm not sure exactly what information he's referring to.
Yeah, maybe even like the proton and the things that we've shared. There are things that haven't been announced yet. So we can't really quite take that on because we don't have all the research in front of us other than what some of the things that have been shared. But like the proton thing that we've talked about, and some of the other, I brought in from Greg Braden and HeartMath, heart-brain coherence, and so there are things and the field is you, etc. So these things that we're talking about that are out now.
As I understand it, and again, I'm not an active researching physicist. As I understand it, and this is from what Nassim has shared, and you can look it up independently, is that there was an experiment. If you go to Nassim's website, the Resonant Science Foundation, you'll be able to see his paper, which predicted that the size of the proton, and from Janine, technically it's the charge radius of the proton, fancy way of saying the size of the proton, was smaller. And then you can also look up the experiment that did find that their radius was smaller, and there is some organization or some standard that provides the standard size charge radius of the proton, and they actually changed their number to reflect this measurement. So I just would encourage you to look this up for yourself. CODATA, Janine is saying, is the organization or the agreement. But you can search this. This is well known, is that you don't have to take our word for it. Look this up on Google and you can see the research for yourself.
Yes, so true. Boy, there's a lot of this. So Resonant Science Foundation, Kevin, go check that out. In fact, they just announced that some of this latest research, they've announced a program just for kids so that kids can, so they dumb it down a little bit so kids can actually understand what these research conclusions are that they're coming to. So encourage you to go check that out. One of the things that Greg and Nassim share here is that the truth has been their guide. The problem here over the years in science, and Albert Einstein would reference this too, is once you go off the rails and you keep following truth into these whole new understandings, it can be troubling for the world. So let me give you an example. In academia, there have been lots of models that have been built, in textbooks and experiments around the old Newtonian science, that just share this is the way it is. And then there's and then this construct is built on top of this construct, which is built on top of this construct. Well, now you come in with a unified field theory that just bashes all those constructs, that just knocks them down, where there may be certain truths that are still there. But now there's a truth with a capital T, as Timothy likes to call it, where where it just is almost non-refutable, but it is going against current academia. It's going against current constructs. People have built their whole lives creating these classes, writing these books, doing these seminars. So you can't expect that everybody's just going to say, well, let me quickly throw away my career work, all of my research, all of my seminars. Let me just start from scratch. that's just not the way the world works. So there's quite a bit of turmoil. Historically, I mean, look at Galileo if you know his story, and all the way back as these new scientific understandings were brought about. Unfortunately, some were killed, some were quarantined for the rest of their life. It isn't actually a very pretty picture when science reveals these new understandings. Hopefully that's not going to happen here now. But so I'll just share that it's tough for many people who have built their whole lives, their whole professional career around old models that really are going to have limited use here, as we go forward. Okay, so here's another, Timothy, please.
Sorry, just one note on this, and I think this is why I love physics in particular, and I know other disciplines carry this along too, but I'm familiar with physics because in high school physics, we do learn Newton's theory, even though Newton's theory is just an approximation of Einstein's theory. And so there's always a place in physics where, we don't have to throw away Newton's theory because Einstein's is better. Newton's is just a simpler understanding of Einstein's. And so too, I suspect that Nassim's is just an even greater, perhaps, understanding of gravity and some of these forces that we don't necessarily have to throw these out, but we can come to maybe the appreciation that this is describing something a bit more fundamental. And this is where people will come in and try to hack the theory apart or try to run experiments to try and prove or disprove it.
Yeah, beautiful. Yes. So, and that's nice because it's not like nobody's trying to hurt anybody here. We're just trying to come to the grander understanding. This thing called life of why are we here and what's the invitation? In being here. We're just trying to get to, and then how can we experience that? In its fullest. I mean, that's all. We're just trying to get to those things, and this is where the unfolding, takes us there. So. Okay, and boy, this hour has gone fast. We only have maybe we'll go a few minutes over if that's okay with Timothy, because we still have lots of questions. So Jennifer is saying, if all human life ends, will the universe still exist? Timothy, if all human life ends, will the universe still exist? Do you want to respond to that one?
I'd say, does the world, well, for whom? I'd say probably yes and no, like any profound question. There's, what I will share is one of my favorite quotes is from Niels Bohr, one of the founders of quantum mechanics. And Niels Bohr said, "The opposite of a trivial truth is simply false, but the opposite of a profound truth is also true." And this is why often teachers will say, well, maybe yes and no, because any question worth asking is probably aspects of the two.
Right. Yeah. And also, so this question, because it's a big one, will the universe still exist? Because human life, of course, there's an existential crisis. Many of us would, as we look at climate change and a planet and so on, we've got there's a big pivot actually that's happening right now. This is what we're calling conscious living. It's why we're so devoted to it, where we live consciously, we pivot in this whole new direction where we steward the earth, and plant life and animal life and look out for each other. These are things we naturally do when we live consciously. So human life doesn't go away at all here on this planet. In fact, we move from surviving to thriving to flourishing, for these our kids and future generations. That's why we're so completely devoted to that. But if for some reason that didn't happen on this planet, we've got a whole universe of sentient beings. And, boy, I mean, the universe, this is beautiful. If you've watched Jude Currivan's research, if you know of it, or many others, again, Greg Braden and Nassim and Bruce Lipton and Lynn McTaggart and many scientists that bring this in. The universe is huge. This James, the new telescope that just is out there that is opening up, how big this universe is. It's bigger than we thought, and there's life everywhere. And aren't we arrogant to think that when we just think of it as just resident to this planet? My God, there are billions of planets that are inhabitable out there, they say. So This is the thing I rest my head on in the pillow at night, is just the beauty and grandeur of this living, breathing universe of which I'm a part, that we're all a part of, and life never ends. So, okay, now, so let's see, we're just about out of, in fact, we are out of time, but let's take one more question. I'm just looking over these questions here. Thank you, Jacqueline and Ava and Amy. So really appreciate you all coming in here with questions during this program. So Ava says, I'm agnostic. I just don't understand how you all believe what you hold dear. Agnostic. So how do we believe what we hold dear?
Well, I would just invite you to consider that your belief that we cannot know is also a belief. We're all believing something, and that's just the truth. We're all holding a faith position, even if the faith position is that we can't know, because that's still a belief. And so I think we're all just called into believing something, and the best we can do is use all of our life experience to show how it is helpful or harmful to us. Because the truth is, our belief doesn't shape the world. Our belief doesn't make truth true. But our belief does have an influence on our experience of the world. And so I think what we really ought to be asking ourselves is, what belief is most helpful for me and for this world in general?
Yes, and Ava as well. Boy, one of the things that sure has opened my eyes, Humanities Team is 19 years old. And over that 19 years where I've had the privilege of being in the center of all of this work that we do now, this community, conscious community, this streaming platform for transformational education, we work with lots of folks from the NDE community, near-death experience. Timothy was referencing that earlier. Also in the mediumship and life after death community. And all I can say is, oh my God, if we can just stay open to what these people share, it's astounding. Because this whole, what is called the lifting of the veil, where we, of course, with our own eyes are very present to what's going on in this world, but where we can start to really see and understand as we lift the veil, what is not embodied, that realm, and wisdom that is coming in all the time. It's actually, we all actually have natural skills to do this. Karen Noe, who we've referenced as Timothy's mom, she's one of these mediums. She's part of this life after death program. And Wayne Dyer is being brought into this world even today. He passed in 2015, 7 years later. Wayne Dyer is active with teachings in this world today. There are many actually referencing this work. Karen Noe's maybe the most prominent one that is bringing Wayne directly to his family, though they now are in touch with their dad directly. Wayne Dyer's written a book through her called We Consciousness. It's part of this whole life after death program. So we can just, where we open our eyes to that, that Wayne Dyer is still present in the world today with important teachings, where loved ones, your mother who passed, your father who passed, your pet who passed, where we can be in touch and hear and feel things that nobody could possibly know but them. And I can assure you they bring this kind of information in for every day as their channels to the afterlife. It's astounding, and again, as you lay your head on the pillow where you have this awareness, where, oh my God, I tell my kids that, there's where they talk about nervousness, I'll say, I won't be nervous about dying. I mean, what is there to be nervous about? Life is everlasting. There's no reason for nervousness. It's an illusion. Nervousness and anxiety are illusions because life doesn't ever end. And that's what I've come to understand. In Humanities Team, we try not to get too preachy and say, oh, this is the way it is. But where we open ourselves to these incredible faculty, these experts, these people who've developed these best practices, including here in NDE and mediumship, life after death, and also in the new science. Wow, I mean, does it open our eyes to, this is where I was saying, maybe the religionists have it right where they say you're reborn, because I feel actually I've been reborn. I'm like a completely new person from the person I used to be in Silicon Valley that would walk around with my whiteboard of, okay, let's capture all the ideas in the room. It's like, get rid of the whiteboard, you know. It's all, the field is right here, right now. Timothy, any final words for everybody? I really appreciate you being here with us for this week's program.
I appreciate it too, Steve, and thank you all for being here. I think you said it perfectly, Steve, that we can just invite ourselves to be reborn in each moment. You know, this is the grand opportunity that we have in front of us, that life is truly for you. Every piece of your life is for your benefit. And the more that we can embrace this, the more we'll see it as true. So thank you. Thank you, Steve, and everyone for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And Timothy's pulling a twofer here because he has got his own program at 4 p.m. Pacific this evening. And so thank you for being here. I'll leave you. Amy shares, she says, thank you for explaining a bit more about the understanding of who you are and why you do what you do. I've been drawn to your work for some time now, and thank you for doing what you do. I hope you contribute in my own way. She says she hopes that she can contribute in her own way. So thank you, Amy, on behalf of all of us in the Humanities team. That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So Timothy and I have colleagues and partners that make this program possible. We've talked about Jim Gray, who's right here in the studio. I think we've got a camera that'll pull back and you'll see me on the couch. I'm on the couch right here. That's Jim Gray over there. Jim, thank you for making the whole program so easy and seamless. Also, Nanette Kennedy, Andy Guski, Dee Meyer, Karen Gordon, and Garth Catterall, so many more that help make this program possible. Thank you to our partners and colleagues here in Humanities team. Be sure to join us at 4 p.m. Pacific for the next 12 steps, a live program with Timothy. And then stay on right after that at 5 p.m. Pacific, Greg Braden and Humanities team. I'll be back, and we're going to broadcast for the very first time from Surviving to Thriving, and as we journey into the conscious future. Boy, don't miss that. Thanks for being with us, everybody. Really fantastic. We'll be back with you next week, and looking forward to that. Have a fabulous rest of day. Love and peace and blessings.